All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. Uh, it is a call dedicated to productivity. And I'm going to add positivity and productivity. Every Friday at 9 o'clock, we are here to lean in, bring in amazing guests. We have Coach Bill Hart, who pretty much doesn't need an introduction, but in a few minutes, we will introduce him and we'll kick off the topic at hand. Mr. Booksman, anything you want to say to welcome everybody and
Oh, I
frame?
just, I just can't think of a better place to be than hanging out with my two good friends, Deborah and Dave. But really, the person that you guys, every time he's on, you hear me say it, is I really believe I am who I am in the mortgage business, as the person I've grown into and as a human being in my life, the father, the husband, and all of that because of the time that Bill poured into me personally. So I always love the opportunity to get on here and thank him once again. Look forward to the opportunity. I think in a month or two, I get to give him a big hug in person. And I just know that anytime Bill is here, he's going to add a ton of value to you also. Whatever you're doing, multitasking, turn it off, pay attention, because we were talking earlier today about Bill's conversations with 150 people who all are successful in the mortgage space, who are all saying to him, hey, what I've been doing just isn't working anymore. So I'm just excited to have this conversation we're going to have. And then speaking of seeing people in person, again, a big hug. I get to see you, Deborah, next week in Dallas. So super excited to see you. Welcome, as always, on Friday.
Yes, thank you. And a lot of people know this, but some may not. My social story when back in the day when I was having my Debbie Downer moment and in the bathtub crying and just I had pushed everybody away except for my social media sphere. And that's where I would go to consume. And it was really the three of you when you guys probably didn't even really know who I was then. But what you guys would share online was, the very inspiration that then pulled me out of my funk and helped me realign my purpose because I was consuming good content at a time that, people close to me really couldn't penetrate because I was just in a bad place. So talk about impact and the power of social and sharing your message. Thank you to you three for doing that consistently because there's a lot of people that tune in and you could be pulling them out of that dark place. Even if it's just one person, guys, who hears the message, hope can go a long ways and it can give another day for some. So thank you.
What a great tee up to this topic and how I want to frame it. So Coach Bill Hart came up with the headline. We invited him to be in this community, which we do all the time, but this is the time that worked. And we said, hey, what should we talk about? And he said, this is your time, the separation season. So, that is the title of the call. We're going to tee it up with that. Now, for anyone listening to this, it's like you're new to the business, and we're getting new people that come to the industry all the time. Bill Hart has been in the business a long, long time. If you go to his Facebook group, you'll actually see a picture from about a week ago where he was on the cover of a magazine and literally unrecognizable. Like you would be like, oh, who's that guy? And Coach, I think I made a comment. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I think I said something to the effect that you've always seen the best in people. And then I think you've always been able to like elevate people. And then here's my take on Coach. He's always been that person, but he's also been that person that has always elevated. Like here he is relevant in the mortgage industry today as you were, a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So I want to tee up before we do this topic. Like, what's your secret, bro? Like, how do you do that? Because I know there's got to be some personal rhythms. Some of it may be innate and part of how you are wired, but I'll bet you there's some rhythms that you have that have continued to keep you seeing the best in people and positive. What comes to mind?
Yeah, man. I really think I was born with a natural sense of that. Always looking for the best in people. My mom. So Deborah, should you ever question the impact that you have on your kids, my mom, who was a feisty Texan. If are any Texans on the call right now, you know what I mean by a feisty.
There's some Texans.
Yes.
I know Deborah. Yeah,
Cowboys, by the way.
She was a feisty Texan. Her maiden name was Houston, and we are directly related to General Sam Houston.
Dude, you've never told that story. That's pretty cool.
Hell, in Texas every time I'm there because it's like standing ovation time. Like, yes, President of Texas. He was, And look, he was very successful at what he did, but he was a drunk, he was a womanizer, like he was a mess. But he got stuff done, right? GSD, he got stuff done. And what my mom always told me growing up is she said, you know what, you can do anything you want to. And Deborah, I know that's based on the way you named your children, I know that's your philosophy, right? But that's really where it all began for me, Dave, and the way that it manifests every day. And I tell my kids and my grandkids this all the time, that I call it pouring white paint in my bucket every day. Todd, you've heard me say this before, but what I mean is there's a new book, there's a new podcast, there's new thought leadership. I can question biases. I just told my wife this morning, the Today Show was on, and I said, Hoda Kotb, you guys all know Hoda. When I
Mhm.
first saw her, if I'm completely transparent, when I first saw her, I thought, I'm not sure, NBC. I think that was a mistake. This doesn't look like a broadcaster. And what I realize is, first of all, she's amazing. She has an incredible heart. I love the way she connects. Amazing smile, amazing laugh. People love this woman. But my bias was she doesn't look like a broadcaster like I grew up with in the 50s and 60s. So every day, like every day, I come up with moments of, well, I was wrong about that. I was wrong about that too. You know what I mean? I just my stigmas and dogmas just kind of fall away the older I get, and I'm just open to being sharpened and corrected and learning. So that's my
One,
long answer to a short question.
one observation I've had, then one question, and then we'll get into some prepared thoughts that you have around the separation season, and it's your time. But I have found, I turned 60 this year, and I've always been an early morning person. And I've always had kind of a mantra in my head, which is peaceful, positive, productive. Like those are like a self-talk about how I want to start my day. And I have noticed that when I'm talking to people, and there are people that are winning, that are gaining market share, that are kicking butt, and then there are folks that aren't. And I ask the question, like, well, tell me about your morning, and literally every time I've talked to someone that's winning and kicking ass, it's like, well, I do this, and they've got something. And almost every time that I've talked to people that are either the most directionless or the most hopeless, there's like, well, I really don't have a morning routine. I really don't. And I mean, like, I'm literally batting 100 since I started really paying attention and making that one of my questions. Like, it's like 1,000%. Like the people that it's like how they start the morning. So, one, do you see the same thing? And then two, what is your morning routine?
You guys go ahead and I'll chime in.
No.
He's asking you.
He was
Oh,
asking you. He
sorry.
knows my
I thought
morning.
you
I
said
know,
you guys. Okay.
morning routine.
So
Bill.
mine is I sleep until 4:45. And I start my day at 5:10 Pacific in a Bible study with Casey Crawford, our CEO, Mike Brennan, our president, Scott Green, our chief counsel. It's an interesting way to start your day, and I do that every day. And that's what sets my worldview. That's what sets my compass every single day. We're in scripture, we're talking, we're laughing, we're crying, we're just being sharpened. And so that's my true north. And then the thing that I've learned, because Todd, you can only coach people on this so long and then not actually do it. So I don't look at my phone, like, I guess probably for an hour and a half. It's usually around 7:30 that I might finally take a look at it. But then I move into, like, Dave, I was watching the Daniel Saw interview. And by the way, you guys, holy cow, this is such a great interview that Jeremy did. What was it, 2 days ago, 3 days ago?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
I mean, I'm going to talk more about it later, but I really want to make sure everybody on this call hears it from me. That is one of the most powerful, confidence-filled interviews I've probably ever heard. Now, Jeremy coaches Daniel, so there's a great symbiosis in there. It'd be like if Todd and I did an interview, which we've done. But yeah, I mean, the guy is absolutely killing it in a market like we're in right now, and his team, not just him personally, but his team is averaging 6.1 loans a month right now with 40 LOs. Think about those of you that are leaders right now. We've seen those days in the past, and they were fantastic days, and that was great production. Nothing like that in a market like this right now. So
that's true.
yeah, that's just one of those it's a standout for me. I'm going to have my whole team make sure that they listen to it because I just took tons of notes. But yeah, man, that's so it's that kind of stuff, but also this book I'm reading, which I'll transition into here in just a second, but it's called Master of Change: How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You. Does that sound familiar? Mortgage industry. The author is Brad Stulberg, Stulberg. So Dave, I
Got
come
it. So
back to you. Do you want to jump in? Is there
Well,
another?
can I throw something in? I think what I want to make sure I remind you all of is Bill talked about what he does, but he's also clear on what he doesn't do, right? Again, and I think that's where, of all the time that I've spent watching all of you in our industry and the real estate agents that we all work with, and, from the time that I've spent in the coach's chair, it's definitely that piece of eliminating that distraction of email and social media and whatever else is dinged up on your phone, since you went to bed before, just leave that out there. Do all the things that you want to do in the morning because, people always think, Dave already nailed it. 100% of the people that he sees that are actually visionary right now in this market have a solid morning routine. And remember, morning routine doesn't have to be that you get up, you run 3 miles, you go to the gym and pump iron, you jump in your cold plunge in your sauna.
Thank God for that.
Right. And you do cartwheels or whatever that is, right? Your morning routine is whatever it is. But I do know this, what it does have is it has intentionality, typically has some type of reading, whether it's spiritual reading like Bill's talking about or personal growth, and just really a focus to get your mindset in the right way before you get going. And definitely this thing right here is not going to be the thing that does that for you.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
My last question on that, and I might even play a little video at some point in this call, depending on where Bill goes with this. But it's your input. Was it Coach Buzz? He's the head basketball coach. Your sister actually forwarded a little 1-minute clip of the head coach of Texas A&M, Coach Buzz, and it was your input is your edge. And if you are
Buzz Williams, Coach
good
Buzz
advice,
Williams. Yep.
yeah, Coach Buzz Williams, if you are listening to the, good things, you're going to have good thoughts. If you're asking, person to ask great questions, get good input. And so I think the morning routine is where you really want to make sure that your input is what is happening. So Coach, I know you picked this headline. I know you've got some ideas. Where do you want to go?
I want to help people see what I see very clearly right now. I put out, before we started recording or broadcasting, I put out an offer to the industry 4 or 5 months ago and just said, I am hearing enough pain that I just want to make myself available. I have enough margin in my schedule that I can do that. I never could have done that as a coach of building champions because I was booked hour to hour to hour, and my role now provides a lot more flexibility. And I just put that offer out, and my hope is, and I guess the evidence is, enough people reached out that I built enough trust to know that, yeah, I work for Movement Mortgage, but this isn't a recruiting call. This is just me hanging out with you. Like, let's have a conversation because there's a lot of pain out there still today. As we record this September 13th, there's still a lot of pain out there. And if you guys ask me thematically what I heard from people, and it varied depending on if I had coached them in the past and we already had a high trust level, or if they were just kind of stepping into an uncomfortable moment with a coach that they felt like they could trust. It varied a bit. But the theme was, dude, my core has been shaken. What I did before that produced income that fed my family is not working. And I'm scared to death. And I don't know what to do. And they didn't leave, right? This wasn't that first wave of LOs that left the industry, like they were still hanging on by their fingernails, waiting for the next rate drop. And so we just had conversations about what we're going to talk about today. My experience in that is to try and help people step back from it. More than anything else, it was, you're not alone. Because a lot of these people felt like it was just them. Like, I don't get it, man. I was closing 8 loans a month regularly. I was closing 20 loans a month in the heyday. And, you know, I had one person that was a top 1%er who I'm not sure what month it was, might have been January this year, goose egg, like no loans. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here with some of you that are on this call right now. I know you can relate to this because it just happened a lot. So that's where this comes from, right? And then my head goes to this book that I'm reading right now. Speaking of white paint, the link is in, Paul threw that in there, Master of Change, How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You. And I want to just share a couple thoughts and then we can go around and discuss this. But and the author, Brad Stulberg, I just noted here, he researches, writes, and coaches on mental health, well-being, and sustainable excellence. Seems to me like if there's a prescription for our industry right now, it would be, if we're really honest, mental health, it's a thing, you guys, well-being, and sustainable excellence. A lot of people are really, really struggling right now from a mental health perspective. And this is another one of my biases, you guys. Years ago, I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't really know what that meant. But mental health is legit in our country right now, and people have been shaken to their core in this industry. So he says, and I just want you to write these 2 words down. He said, to thrive amid change, embrace what he calls rugged flexibility. Rugged flexibility. And he says that's a blend of toughness, determination, durability, responsiveness, adaptability, and malleability. I know you can't write all this stuff down, but a bunch of you have got your AI bots running, so you'll have all this stuff. I'm going to say it one more time. Rugged flexibility is a blend of toughness, determination, durability, responsiveness, adaptability, and malleability. So here's what he goes on to say. In the book, he says, rugged flexibility starts with admitting you can't return to the old status quo. Like, give me a thumbs up if you're on this call and you recognize you cannot return to the old status quo. Do you recognize that to be true? Yeah.
Come on, give lots of thumbs up, guys.
Yeah. So he then goes on to say, however, by tweaking your mindset, which is what we talked about earlier, your identity and your actions. Todd, you're all about actions. The great thing about Win by Noon is it's all about actions. We can plan our goals and have those in Win by Noon. We can, where's my Win by Noon? It is always on my desk, just so you know. It is always on my desk. It's just open to a page. I want to show the cover. It's always here. I hope you guys are all using Win by Noon. I mean, in essence, am I oversimplifying it, Todd, by saying that's a $20 a month investment ballpark?
You are absolutely correct. $19.99 to be exact.
Okay, so I exaggerated up. I rounded up. You guys, if there was any one thing that I could say to you of all the things I say today that I think will help you to have the biggest impact from my experience as a coach, it's pull your intentionality out of your phone, off of your screen, or 2 screens, or 3 screens for some of you, and get it on paper. You don't have to do it for the rest of your life. Just prove it to yourself for 90 days that paper makes a difference. Go to winbynoon.com. I'm sure there's a link coming up here. Make this happen, you guys, because it'll make a huge difference. So again, he's saying tweak your mindset, your identity, and your actions to help you grow so you can persevere through change and emerge stronger. Now, you'll notice he used the word responsiveness. And Dave, that was probably a trigger for you. Like, what does he mean by that? His point is, and it's a minor subtle shift, but he says, respond thoughtfully instead of reacting instinctively. respond thoughtfully instead of reacting instinctively. So I believe what that means, if you're a loan officer right now, whatever your current reality is right now, if you react instinctively, you might right now say, man, I am gearing up. It is refi season. Let's go. And part of me says, do that. Like, good for you. We're overdue. But if you do that to the exclusion of your realtor connections, to Daniel Saw's point, which again, I'm going to get to in detail in a few minutes, he calls that right out and says, dude, run towards your realtors right now. While the rest of the industry, while the rest of your competition gets buried under, this sort of bag of potato chips, there's not a lot of nutrition in there, but it's going to pay you. He's running after the meat. And the meat is to be with the realtors, to go even deeper with real estate agents than you ever have, because now's the time to gain market share. And so the last thing that I'll share with you there from this book is he says to start responding rather than reacting. He calls it the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps of self-efficacy during tumultuous times. He's got a great vocabulary, right? The 4 Ps of self-efficacy during tumultuous times, which we're in. Number 1, he says pause. Pause. Dave, I know this guy is preaching to you. You will love this book. It is Dave Savage. Every time I was reading this stuff, I thought this is classic Dave Savage. Number 1, pause. Identify your feelings to understand the situation better. This technique quiets the fear response and makes you feel more at ease. And I'm going to also say that to you when you think about, I don't like my boss. I can't believe my company just did this with that program. Man, the comp was just like, stop that. Don't let that be the thing that causes you to change companies. Like, pause, identify your feelings around that, step back, look at it objectively. Don't just react and create a knee-jerk reaction. So number 1, pause. Number 2, process. Process. He says, use self-distancing techniques to process what's happening. Imagine how an older, wiser version of yourself or a friend or colleague might view the same situation. I'll be the older guy today. I'm 69. I'm going to be 70 in March. Maybe imagine, like, what would Coach Bill do in this situation? Or a favorite uncle or a grandmother, someone that you really emulate, and say, would they just react? Would there be a knee-jerk reaction, or would they step back and process this event? So pause, process. Number 3 is plan. Consider which possible responses best align with your core values. So here's what I believe. When I read that, I think of not only your responses, but where you're going to begin with the next point, number 4, to spend your time, you guys. One of the things that Dave has done that is an absolute gift to our industry is create a community, which is free, on Facebook, this Trust Engine Mastermind Productivity Group, 17,900 members. Dave, 18,000 members. I tell clients all the time, you don't need to buy a book. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do, if somebody tells me, man, I want to double down with financial planners, cool. Go there, hit the search feature, type in financial planners, and watch what comes up. Every topic you can imagine is available there for free. Dave, what you've created for the industry is amazing. It's game changing. It's life changing.
I do want to correct the link there.
So thank you.
What I started for the industry, like, we have created this,
Fair enough.
There'd be no Facebook group without Todd. There would be, people would not watch that YouTube channel if it wasn't for Daniel and Jeremy and Denise and Deborah. So, like, I started it. This is the industry's, people that are growth minded, people that really want to optimize the value that they deliver to consumers. This is our community. This is not my community.
Dude, it's all true, and and you're being very gracious. But if there was no, what's up? Like,
I'll take that.
It wouldn't be happening. Yeah.
And he's 60 years old, guys.
Come on.
Some of you tell me I'm too old. You're not too old.
Just getting started.
Absolutely. Okay, so number 1 is pause. Number 2 is process. Number 3 is plan. Number 4 is proceed. I feel like a lot of people get stuck somewhere in 1, 2, and 3, and number 4 is critical. Proceed. Start by taking small steps. Adjusting your trajectory is needed. Pay attention to the media you consume. This is what you were saying, Dave. As you practice responding instead of reacting, prioritize media such as books and long articles over media aimed at generating immediate reactions, such as social media and cable news. So we've got to be careful. Look, we just had a debate. Oh my goodness. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe. It was disturbing to people, and maybe invigorating and exciting at another level. But you get your head wrapped around that stuff instead of your own journey and what you can control moving forward. There's just nothing good that comes from that. So my strong admonition is, like, control your news on your terms. Don't be an ostrich. You can't stick your head in the sand and not know what's going on. I have used more different resources, and now I'm just using Google News. It's super easy. It begins to learn what you favor, and it allows me in the morning, like one of the very first things that I do when I turn on my computer on my laptop is I just go to Google News and I just scan it. Like, and it'll be the same story from multiple sources. So you're not being brainwashed. You get your news from MSNBC, you're going to get one message. You get it from Fox News, you're going to get another message. So I just look at, like, lots of resources so that I get a rough idea of, okay, I get what's going on. I get what's going on in Springfield. I get what's going on in Boeing. I understand that. But don't marinate in it, you guys. It's too easy to do. Don't marinate in it. So there you go, man. That's the stuff with that book that has got me thinking about today. And I'd love for you guys to react to that a little bit before I go on.
Yeah, no, well, I'm gonna react a lot. So one, I bought that book. It'll be delivered on Sunday. So thank you
Nice.
for a book recommendation. It looked really cool. And then two, I do want to do a little pulse check with the audience, because I don't want to just fly by what just happened and what was delivered. And I want you guys to react to this poll that I'm going to put up, because I want to know where you're at. So I just pushed a poll. How clear and confident are you about your success in the future? Are you, like, very concerned, a bit concerned? I'm good to go. I'm fired up and clear on how to win in the future. And then if you're just doing better than ever, like you are just stepping on throats and gaining market share, feel free to chime in. But I want y'all to vote. Like, I want this community at this time, so that for the next half of the call, we can tailor some of the leadership we bring to you. And first of all, I don't know who checked yet, what you checked. So this is what do you call that? Anonymous survey, and about 43% of you have voted. Let's get this over 50%. Like, guys, give me a quick hit so we can get on with it. I'm going to share the results. Come on, everybody, like, give me to like 80% voting, like, within seconds. All right, here we go. So any guesses? We did have over 50% of the people on this call vote. Actually, I'm not going to do guesses. I'm just going to share the results real quick. Here they are. And Bill, you want to react to this?
Well,
at
I mean,
all?
it over 50% are well over. I mean, what is that? 58%?
Yeah,
I'm very concerned, or I'm a bit concerned.
yeah, and 27% are good, 15% are super fired up, and no one clicked on I'm doing better than ever right now.
Yep.
0%.
Yep.
So good. First of all, thank you everyone for helping tailor that. So another thing, you talked about win by noon, and I kind of kicked it off with win in the morning. And this year I turned 60 years old, which is it's a big number, like, I can't imagine, like, ever visioning myself at 60. Now that I'm 60, I'm like, I'm more fired up than ever. But I've always been a win by noon guy. I mean, that's just, I didn't have that term, but I have that term now. And I started saying, I'm going to win by 7 so I can win by noon. And I have felt an increase in energy, vitality, I'm losing weight. I'm really achieving a lot of personal goals. So Todd, real quick, Bill mentioned win by noon, but I want to make sure they know what it is so that people can follow up. And win by noon at scale? Just make sure people know what Bill was even talking about.
I mean, legit, it's just a old school paper day planner. I happen to use the plug and play social media edition, since Deborah and her team over at Plug and Play do all of my social media, and I'm doing my best to be a little more intentional around it, not as intentional as Deborah thinks I should be. And, you know, Bill just said it. You've got to get it out of the brain, out of the electronic. One of the things that Bill had me read early on in my coaching with him was David Allen's Getting Things Done. And he talks about having mind like water. And there's just something different from a level of execution when you actually have it written down there, pen and paper. Hey, these are the most important priorities I have today. Because oftentimes what happens is you get to the end of your day, you woke up with great intentions. You thought about all the things you needed to do. They were clear in your mind before the texts and the emails and all the things started coming at you. But when it's written right there, these are the things I have to do. I literally wrote the 3 things that needed to get done yesterday. And guess what? I got those 3 things done. Some days it's longer. Some days it's a bigger list. And it was interesting. There's a gentleman named Mike Metz, and Mike was on the stage at Sales Master years ago. He had a mullet back then. I talked to him yesterday. I haven't talked to him in a decade. And he was a big influence on me during the financial crisis. He was the #1 originator here. Bill talked about getting together with people. And I literally just called him to thank him for pouring into me during that time. He was the #1 guy in town. I happened to run with him at Sales Mastery, and then I was brave enough to follow up and ask him to get together. And he invited me to his office and shared with me what he was doing. And we laughed for a while yesterday. He's walking on the beach in Florida, so of course he's a guy like me. He's out doing a walk, and he talked about that he believes the difference between loan originators today and what he was doing back then, what we were doing back then, was his intentionality around the actions he took. And when he's on the stage at Sales Mastery, he was the clicker guy. He had the old school clicker that those of you who are young don't know what they look like, but it's a little thing that people put on their finger, and every time someone would walk in a gate, like at a baseball game, they would click it to know how many people were in attendance. And his number was 30. If he didn't actually talk to 30 people a day, he wasn't going home. I mean, I sat in his office where he's like, well, I got to go because I still got to make 2 more connections before I can leave.
Is it me or did Todd cut out?
I cut out?
No, I think it was you, Dave.
So
Wasn't that a pitch counter? I thought that was a pitch
Yeah,
counter.
no, it's a
it
pitch
could be
counter.
that too,
But
whatever you
same
want to.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the bottom line is this, right? Is it's a way for you to be more intentional around your actions to make sure you get things done. And we all know this, right? Dave talked about it. Bill talked about it. Deborah talks about it all the time. It's the whole idea that if you get those most important priorities done first, then the rest of your day's cake, right? You know, I love the fact, Bill, that you have time now in your schedule to pour into people, right? That's what y'all want. You want that time to pour in and do the follow-ups that you need to do. And I just can tell you this, I hear story after story after story of folks who say, gosh, you know what? It's just a mindset change. Even the people who don't buy the planner and just say, I'm going to get the most important things done first. I'm going to be intentional around what it is I do. Those are the ones that are higher up on that confidence scale. And that's what we want for all of you. That's why we're here every Friday. That's why Dave continues to record all the interviews he does. That's why Bill opened up his calendar. That's why Deborah's posting and encouraging you to do what she's doing on social media, is because we want you to be successful. And this is just an easy tool, I think, to help get you there a little faster.
Yeah. All right. So we'll put a link to that. If you have not taken a good link at the Win by Noon planner, I mean, it's all the little things that the best of the best do. Like, it's on that sheet. Like, how many calls did you make? How many thank you notes did you send? How many, like, whatever you should be measuring, it's just a proven formula to win by noon. All right, Deborah, any reactions to what Bill said or any direction you want to take before we
I mean,
back to Bill?
it was so good. And the first thing I thought of was, you know, next weekend is the fall equinox. So I won't geek out on you guys, the ex-science teacher in me, but it's, to me, fall represents change. You know, it's a season change. The leaves are starting to change and come off trees, and it can really be a time to shed and accept new growth. And so as you were talking about the book, Master of Change, I thought, you know, it's the irony is that's like the one constant in life is change. Things are always changing. And we have, if we looked back and we're honest and truthful with ourselves, there's lots of changes we've already overcome and we've won and remained undefeated on. So we know we can respond and excel. It's just, what are we doing today and what's holding you back? And the mindset, I mean, I can't echo that any louder, where you know, I've heard Ryan Grant also talk about when your identity is tied to your income or your results, you can feel lost when your income and results have dramatically decreased. And then that mind state, it's like you're beating yourself up mentally. And, there's a lot of people who don't know where to turn or where to go. And not just males, but I especially worry about males because some are not, they're kind of conditioned not to always express that. And so they bottle it up and either try to suppress it. And believe it or not, that can come out as like body leakage in your energy. And so learning how to have grace on yourself and fall back in love with who you are and incorporating mindset training within skills training at companies. I think that's often missed from a leadership standpoint of, sometimes we always train on the skills or the knowledge, but not why am I not doing the very thing I know to do that's going to help me get out of whatever I'm in. And I'm guilty where I'm like dunking my Oreos at night. And I'm like, I know I shouldn't be eating Oreos. Like I should not be having anything. And I know, but I'm still doing, and I'm even like having this dialogue with myself when I'm dunking the Oreo and I'm like, but it's too good. And I just keep at it. And so we all have this, but it's who's in your corner to hold you accountable. Do you have self-leadership? And do you have a who to go to that you can be as transparent and honest and ask for that help? And it sounds like, Bill, you're willing to take calls. I don't know how people can get in
Absolutely.
touch with you on that,
Really
but I
easy. Just DM me anywhere. I'll throw my email address in here, but yeah, really and truly, just to that point real quick.
Mhm.
If you're on this call right now and you feel like, man, I could use a coaching hug. I'd really like to run this past somebody that's been around the game for a while. I'd be happy to do that. So I'll throw my email address in. Sorry, Deb, go ahead.
No, I know there's a lot of you who may or may not feel courageous enough to take action, but we're talking about taking action. And maybe that's the first step, is allowing to just dump on somebody like Coach Hart and get it all out of your head and your heart. Because it's almost like a virus. You got to get it out. And then you can start piecing it together, put it in your win by noon planner, set your priorities, and just, dominate. But we've got to elevate ourselves. Little plug to Deion Sanders, Elevate to Dominate. It's another great book. But it's a real thing. And until you get that clarified, sometimes the action or the results won't come.
So good.
So first of all, guys, this is a mastermind. And while there's 3 of us here moderating it, if you've got questions, put them in chat. We'll get to those. So put any questions in chat. Also, let's just do a little pulse check. How's everybody digging this? Use the little reaction and click on whichever button comes to mind. We're getting lots of hearts. I think
That's me.
yeah, right. Stop,
I'm
Bill.
doing that.
No more clicking, Bill Hart. Man, I didn't look how fast Bill's finger can go. Like that was
Nice.
so we've got about 20 minutes left. We've identified that 10% of the folks on this call are like very concerned, like code red, that a total of 50 are concerned. What are some of the Bill Hart strategies to go from I'm unclear, I'm concerned, to I'm clear and I'm confident and I'm moving forward in a positive way and not eating these Oreo cookies at night?
Well, we've all got our Oreo cookies, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we
no,
do.
I know.
Moderation. Okay.
Exactly. Nice. Yeah. Maybe it's just Oreo cookie, singular. Like
You can't
get
have
by on that.
I
It's like
think
a Pringle. You just can't have one. That just doesn't work.
one Oreo cookie. I mean, that's like
Yeah, not in anybody's real world, right?
have one piece of popcorn. No,
Yeah,
thank you.
exactly. No, true, man. So true. So yeah, if we review, like this all started with, so I opened myself up to take calls. I heard a lot of pain, just a lot of pain. And that was heavy, but it was also encouraging once I started to see that there was a pattern. Like, okay, so it's not just these 2 people, it's these 22 people. Holy cow, it's these 42 people. There's just a lot of this out there. So now we contrast that to the message from Brad Stulberg in the book, Master of Change, How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You. Now we feather in an ad hoc on the fly poll that indicates that 60% of our audience here, I don't know enough about statistics to know if that's an adequate random sampling or not. It's probably not, but it's close. are struggling with their view of success. And what I believe is, you guys, I believe there's a very real sense out there in the mortgage industry of, sweet, rates have already dropped a bit. Maybe they drop more, maybe they don't, but I'm breathing a little bit. Like, we know applications are up. We know that refis are up. People are
Interesting.
breathing like, sweet, I can pay for the holidays. My kid can have a truck, I don't mean like a Ford F-150. I mean like a little truck, right? Um, but I'm not kidding about that. Like, I believe there are people hanging on by their fingernails that just said, man, if rates would just drop, then everything would be okay. And if that's you, I really want to challenge your thinking on that and instead say, if that gift continues to occur for a while, use it to invest in your infrastructure. I'll give you an example. Here's a story that you guys all know, but the audience may not have heard this. So I started working for Building Champions in 2003, January of 2003. And it was a really good run until the summer of 2007. And if you guys remember, when the market crashed, when the world financial markets collapsed, when we were selling mortgage-backed securities as derivatives to Denmark, and that whole house of cards collapsed, right? Man, I was getting calls from clients saying, Coach, I had to turn in the BMW lease. I canceled my gym membership, and I love you, man, but I got to cancel coaching. And during that time, 2008, I started doing voiceovers like 1-800-555-1212, because I could make a living. I could supplement my income. Side hustle, I don't think wasn't even a thing then. It's like, I just got to stay alive, right? Until it comes back. Well, here's what ended up happening with Building Champions. Todd, I don't know if you remember Daniel talking about this, and I don't want to misquote it, but I think he said at our last Masters Coach event that they were down to, I'm going to call it 8% of their total volume at Building Champions is in the mortgage industry. 8. That means there's 92% that's somewhere else, and they're working with Daimler that owns Chrysler and pharmaceutical companies that you would know, well-known company, Chick-fil-A. They've diversified, is the point, and become a much healthier organization in the process. When we see the head of coaching organizations recording videos, asking people to come back to coaching, like, we know it's a rough time, right? Like, it's a rough time. So in the same way, if you're an originator and you say, well, I've got 327 people in my database, and I used to get business from these 5 realtors, and right now that's not working. Like, picture, this is a cartoon Looney Tunes image right now of me saying, red alert. Sorry, I couldn't get that quite square. Red alert. That means it's time to diversify lead sources, rethink your value proposition, look at opportunities to, for example, jump into the NAR settlement and what the opportunities are that are created there. Figure out new ways to generate business, to show up, to help people, to become a trusted advisor. Now is the time to double down on that. You can never go back to what it was before. It will never be the way it was before. We might have great seasons, but now's the opportunity to look at your business just like Building Champions did, through a different lens, and say, we need to become healthy. We were too top heavy in one industry. And so if you have a database with under 300 people and you used to have 5 to 7 realtors that sent you business, I'm here to tell you that's a death rattle for you. And you need to focus right now, in my opinion, on diversifying lead sources. Realtors are great. Like, realtors are great. How about financial planners and insurance agents and wealth advisors? How about reading Wally Elbiari's book? Like, grab that book. Listen to him with Dave's help, describe his 6-lane highway. Like, start looking for new ways to build your business. So before you guys chime in on that, I just want to touch on the Daniel Saw interview, because this one for me was such a relevant, timely example. You guys have to run. If you're on this call, please promise me the next thing you'll do is go listen to that interview. It's Daniel Saw, SA. 95% purchase right now, year to date, 292 units, 98 million. His team of 40 LOs have done 1,904 units for 540 million. They're on track for 800 to 900 million this year. Again, at LO's averaging 6.1 units per month average. I am telling you, that is not happening. That is not happening. And he talks about a 3-step process that for him, in my mind as a coach, this is something to latch on to. Like, get this tattooed on your body somewhere. Strategy, process, and execution. Strategy, process, and execution. Here's what I've learned, Dave. I have learned that average people get hung up on specifics, and highly effective people focus on the idea and then they execute. So what I mean by that is, like, you'll see it in chat, you guys, and I don't mean to call anybody out, but all three of you know what I'm talking about. People will say, well, what, can you tell me exactly what that email looks like? Can you tell me exactly how you did? Stop that. Like, just stop that. Sometimes there's moments to emulate, like Scriptapalooza, get Phil's scripts, get Jeremy's scripts. I get that. But I believe average people get so hung up on like, just give me the recipe. If you'll give me the recipe, I can bake the cake. My experience is highly effective people like Daniel Saw are like, I get the idea and now I'm just going to go execute. I don't need the specifics. I'm just going to go execute. So now you guys chime in.
Well, let
react
me
to
just say the key right there is that just execute and then learn, right? That's how you get better, right? I mean, one of the things that I love about our community in general is you all, you kind of nailed it, Bill. People want to know exactly what Jeremy's script is for everything. And if you watched our interview with Jeremy and Phil Jones a couple of weeks ago, Phil coached him through the conversation so he could get better. And you're already looking at Jeremy because he's way up here. He is, but he's humble. And he just goes out there and he puts it into action. And if it works, he keeps doing it and still improves it. If it doesn't work, then he improves it and keeps doing it until it gets better. And so I totally agree with you, because I was that person. I was the person who overthought things. I always joke, I've got this drawer down here that's full of millions of dollars of ideas that I got to 80% and never got over the edge. And so the bottom line is this, is you all know what you got to do. Bill just gave you the roadmap for diversification and taking action. And, today's a great day to do it. It's Friday.
Well, here's a couple thoughts. So one, I wasn't on that call because I was traveling to speak at a sales rally, but I'm in a chat with Jeremy and Daniel, and I was able to watch it. And it really was a magical conversation to just see two extraordinarily successful producers who are also leading other loan officers and coaching at scale and doing amazing things. And there's a little text chat, and this is a text. Jeremy gave me permission to share this, but this was just these two talking afterwards. And Jeremy got off a call, and this was what the customer sent him. This is from a customer communicating to Jeremy. It was so great to talk to you today. After our conversation, I felt very optimistic and excited. Like, when you talk to people, are they getting off the call with you feeling very optimistic and excited? I really appreciate your willingness to explain everything to me and your patience with all my questions. You have squashed like, guys, you can't make this up. Like this. By the way, this is who Jeremy has become. This is who Daniel has become, because they both have a strategy that we go beyond quoting rates and fees, and we help people become more financially literate. We help people become clear on how to build wealth with real estate. And by the way, this is how they have every conversation. They're not having the rate quote conversation, and here's your fee worksheet, and I close loans quick, on time, smooth, and communicate well. Like, they're playing a different game, and they've practiced. Like we all know this quote, like, you pick your habits and your habits pick your life. And so, I want to push everybody through a little self-assessment real quick, and then Coach, I'm going to throw it back to you.
You bet.
But there's this quiz, and I'll put a link to the assessment. But here's the deal. There's the modern mortgage IQ, and there'll be a link to the actual assessment. But there's really 8 pillars to being a modern mortgage advisor. There's a mindset. And by the way, there's modern mindset. Like, now that we have Instagram, I mean, there's a way to decide who you follow on Instagram. And there are some people that use Instagram like myself that I actually get a little timer because I use my app, and at 15 minutes of Instagram a day, I get a little reminder to stop, or I can add 5 minutes. There's a modern way of using social media. And I actually get a lot of inspiration by the way I use Instagram. There's leadership, and how you scale leadership in a modern way. Technology, advice, is the way that you deliver mortgage experience advice. There is modern sales IQ, modern personal brand, marketing, money. And here's the deal. There's a couple themes, and Bill said it. One, like what does it mean to be modern? First of all, adaptability. I love this quote. The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write. There's those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I would be willing to bet that a lot of the folks that are killing it and gaining market share, they're executing on this. Like Daniel Saw executes on this, and he leads a team that's executing on this. What I get asked all the time, what does it mean to be modern? And the North Star of what it's considered to be modern, the fastest and most efficient way of doing something that creates the most convenience and value for a consumer. And it just so happens that today, that's usually something created or consumed on a mobile device. Not always, but usually. Usually when you really start thinking like, what does it mean to be modern? It's adaptability, and it's the fastest, most efficient way to do something in a way that creates the most convenience and value for a consumer. And so here's something else as we close this call out, and before Bill comes back in and leads. When you take this assessment, and we'll put a link down below to it. Level 1 is you know it. Level 2 is you do it. Level 3 is you know it, do it, you can actually teach it. By the way, do we know people that teach things, but it's not a personal habit of theirs? Like they know it, they've done it, they teach it. By the way, level 4 is it's a habit. And level 5 is my results prove it. So you may like, oh, I'm great at personal brand. I'm on all these channels of marketing, but do your results prove that you're really doing it in a way that's effective? Like just because you think you're a good sales, do your conversion results prove it? So we'll put a link down below. Here is a little QR code if you want to put your phone on that real quick and take the quiz. But I would push everybody. It's self-assessment time. Everybody, and it is separation season. There will be Daniel Saw is gaining market share. Like he has higher market share than Huntington Bank, who's the longtime market leader in that market. He's beating Rocket. He's gaining market share. And by the way, it's not magic. Like Coach Bill Hart said, he's got a winning strategy, advice. They're rolling out our Trust Engine app. He's turning data into dollars. There's a term I use a lot. Coach, tell me what you think of this. I'm trying to think where I first heard it quoted, but it's like if you really want to win in the mortgage game and you really want to help realtors, help turn contacts into contracts. So think about it. Like every time a realtor has contact or they have a contact, if you can be a mortgage professional, let's go turn that into a contract. Sometimes it's a buyer agent contract. By the way, we can help turn more listings into contracts. And then every time that you do a pre-approval, the standard is not winning the pre-approval and being the lender. The standard is turning that contact into a contract, winning in multiple offer situations, contact the contract. So Coach, I know we got 4 minutes. Any thoughts you have after that little sequence?
Yeah, man. I mean, all just good dialogue. I'm gonna leave you with this thought, you guys, and that is there have been a lot of words spoken today, right? But if I could leave you with 3, and this is not my original thought. I don't know where it started, where it originated from, but it's decide, commit, succeed. Take a picture of this with your phone, grab a screenshot,
right.
decide, commit, succeed. It's not more complicated than that. I could go on for hours telling you stories and anecdotes, and we could discuss interviews. But for me, at the end of the day, if you ask me to distill it down, so like in a, what would that be, in a beaker, Deb, with a flame underneath it, right? Like trying to just isolate the core elements. This is what we need to be focused on, you guys. 3 things: decide, commit, succeed.
Love, love, love that, man. So the person, I'm not going to put the QR code up again, but I put a link. If you go to savageinsights.com, that assessment is at the top for right now. I move around what's at the top of Savage Insights from day to day, week to week. Deborah, any quick thoughts before we hand it off to Todd Bookspan to close out today's call?
It's just to piggyback on what Bill said. What are the decisions you haven't yet made? What are the commitments that you need to make? And then have the win by nude planner so you can hold yourself accountable to those commitments.
Yeah.
And focus on just 1% better every day. It's something that I tell my kids. I tell them it's work before wins, and it's 1% better every day. And then I tell them compete every day, and it's you versus you getting better than who you were yesterday. But you got to have an intention for every day to know what is it that you're working on, and what are those daily standards that we're committed to.
Yeah. Way to parent, by the way.
And then run the dang ball.
Yeah.
Notice that.
Run the dang ball. I remember that one.
Blind
So
side.
good.
Todd, close us out, brother.
You're on
You're
mute,
muted, bud.
rookie.
That is so rookie mode to me. Sorry, I was sneezing a moment ago. I've got a whole page of notes. I don't even know where to start. Other than oftentimes I say this, go back and rewatch this. You've got a legend here on the call with us, not just a legend in our industry, but a legend in life, someone who cares, someone who sets an amazing example. And I said at the beginning of the call, I'll say it again, I'm a great loan officer leader because of Bill sharpening me. And more importantly, I'm an amazing human because of that, or a better human. I strive to be an amazing human every day.
You're an amazing
I
human.
circled sustainable excellence. I think that's what we all want. We want to be excellent. We want to have that sustainability. And Bill talked about the fact that average people get stuck up on execution of getting things done, where the highly effective people just take it and go. So I think that's going to be my encouragement today, right? Decide, commit, succeed. The bottom line is this: Bill gave you the offer of a lifetime. I've paid a lot of money back in the day to have coaching from Bill, and I think that a conversation with him, if you need it, is a worthwhile investment of your time. And Bill, thank you on behalf of everyone you've had those conversations with. And I think the same goes for Dave, Deborah, and I, right? There's not a day that goes by where I don't hear from someone who is struggling in some way, and we're here to help and pour in as well. And the bottom line is this, right? Gratitude goes a long way. I enjoyed my gratitude phone call yesterday. So if any of you have someone that you're grateful for, make sure that you call them today and let them know. And just continue to dig into this community. We appreciate you. You've got this. And yes, rates are getting better, but you got to think about the strategies that you need to do to implement long term in order to have sustainable excellence. As always, great being here. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks, Coach.
So what a great call. Thank you, everyone who participated in this. Thank you, Coach Bill Hart.
Pleasure.
I want to, my closing thought is just get out and connect, mastermind. In your local communities, there's big opportunity coming. Like a big shift in the market is taking place, which is going to create a big opportunity. You pick your habits pick the success you're going to have this season. Hope you have a killer weekend. Let's go Denver Broncos this weekend. Whoever your team is, good luck. And this is a wrap. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.